Hello and welcome to your full moon video for the full moon of the 3rd of February 2015. You know, if you read all the old fairy tales or even medieval stories of knights in shining armor, you'll always get these concepts of treasure being discovered in some deep, dark place where one least expects to find it. It's even the same in pirate stories, isn't it? You always find treasure buried somewhere. And there's really something that's quite significant about that, if you think about it. And if you think about the own experience that we have in our journey of human consciousness, which is quite often in order to discover the deepest gifts in our life and in order to gain the most out of life, we sometimes have to go to some pretty dark and difficult places. Is this full moon necessarily going to bring some difficulty to you? Not necessarily, but what I am trying to point out in relevance to this full moon is there is an energy of reflection that is associated with it. Looking back over certain times, what you have learned, mistakes that you feel that you might have made. I wanted to say mistakes in inverted commas, because sometimes mistakes lead to the greatest blessings ultimately. So we're going to take a deeper look at this full moon energy, and I'm going to switch over to my astrology software here. Importance is this full moon will be taking place in a section of Leo that's called Ashlesha, as I was saying earlier on at the beginning of the video. And Ashlesha is symbolized by serpents. Now, there's a lot of information locked up in the symbolism of a serpent. It lives in deep, dark places, quite often in holes, so it lives in recesses. So there we have the whole thing of finding some deep, dark place or something hidden, right? Serpents also are representative of the Kundalini energy. So there we have the concept of potential. And in all ancient mystery traditions, serpents are always somewhat connected to the concept of wisdom. Serpents go through quite a process over the course of their life. They quite often shed their skin, and when they shed their skin, that can be one of the most difficult and challenging times for the serpent. If you don't believe me, talk to somebody who has a pet snake. The snake will get a little bit crankier during the times that it's shedding its skin. And then when the snake has shed its skin, it becomes more luminous. Its new skin is shinier. And there's quite a lot of symbolism within that, because when we go through a shedding of skin, or when we go through a process of change, we come out more vibrant, or stronger, fuller, more whole, so to speak. Ashlesha also has a certain degree of unexpected energy connected with it. And this is really important to understand in relation to this full moon. There are a couple of aspects that take place in connection with this. A full moon, in case you didn't know, is always a sun and moon opposition. So the sun is over in the sign of Aquarius and the nakshatra of Dhanishta. What is Dhanishta about? I often like to use the symbolism to explain the nakshatras. Dhanishta is symbolized either by something called a mridanga, which is the drum that you also often see Shiva holding, or the flute of Krishna. And what this means is allowing oneself to be an instrument through which the music of the divine is played through. Right. We're going to come back to all these, and I'm going to tell you where I'm going with this, right? So a full moon is always a sun-moon opposition, so obviously the sun is involved. And the full moon happens in close proximity to Jupiter in Magha. Now, Magha relates to ancient wisdom, things that come from the ancestors. Quite often when the energy of Magha is prevalent, there can be a lot of reflection, going over past times, taking a look at things, letting go of what you need to let go of in order to be able to move forward, taking the gems of wisdom that you have learned from the past, and integrating them even more deeply. But here's the real big one. This takes place with a trine to Uranus. Now, granted, the moon has just gone past that mark at the point that it becomes full. And Jupiter is a few degrees off, but it's retrograde and applying to its aspect with Uranus. The Sun has just created a harmonious sextile with Uranus. So there's a lot of Uranian energy that's connected with this. Uranus is in Revati. Somewhere in your life, there has been a period of being in a state of limbo, a period of change approaching, and you know that that change is coming and it's not quite ready to happen yet. You're making the preparations for it, but things are still kind of in the in-between space, right? Now, the thing to take a look at as well is that both the ruler of Revati and the ruler of Ashlesha are Mercury, and Mercury is retrograde right now. So Mercury gets brought into the equation as well. When Mercury is retrograde, it's a lot about reflection. So I'm going to tell you where I'm going with all this, right? So ultimately, there's a period of limbo, being in between certain things. Something's coming to an end. The new phase has not yet begun. And there's a lot of reflection that has been going on during this period of time, likely where you've been having to take a look at a lot of areas where you feel you might have made mistakes. And what is one of the biggest mistakes that we can make in our life? Not being authentic. Not being true to ourselves, not living in harmony with who we are, but instead giving over some of our being for some reason that we think is necessary, when ultimately it turns out that that wasn't the case. The only necessity in life is to just be yourself, and as authentically yourself as you can. Now, granted, I have to put a disclaimer clause in there, disclaimer clause, not disclaimer cause. Mercury retrograde slip up there. A disclaimer clause in there because sometimes during the learning process we grow and we have to let go of certain things and we change our behavior. But I'm talking about the things that are true and right to us and that we have felt inside of ourselves for long periods of time. There may be some place in your life where you have kind of, well, for lack of a better way to put it, sold yourself out. And you might feel a little bit guilty about that, or uneasy about that, or wishing that you hadn't. And there's no need to kind of, flog yourself over the back or give yourself a hard time over it. But there is a need to recognize that, now you have an opportunity to really prosper by being yourself and by being true to yourself and recognizing the gifts that you have uniquely just as being yourself, and to be able to tap into that potential and really create a very positive, lasting change in your life. Now, what area of your life are these changes going to happen in, or what areas of your life are these changes going to happen in? Well, that depends on where in your chart these particular planets are placed. How do you find that out? Well, if you know a little bit about astrology, you can go to my website, and there's a free chart calculator there under the Astrological Services tab, and you could find out what houses this is placed in for you. If you don't know your astrology, well, if you don't know much about astrology, I should say, well, you can come to an astrologer. And I do offer a range of astrological services. And one of the things we can do is we can take a look at this energy of the full moon and the changes that it's bringing into your life for you, and gain a deeper understanding of what it's all about and how you can make a good game plan for the future in order to deal with the changes that are approaching for you. Either way, don't give yourself a hard time about any mistakes that you feel you may have made in the past, because quite often mistakes are not mistakes. They're blessings in disguise. We go through the mistake, we learn something from it. And sometimes you have to confront your vulnerabilities and things that you may not want to take a look at, weaknesses that you may not want to see, in order to become much stronger, right? So if you feel that you've made a mistake, well, maybe it wasn't a mistake. And, even if it was a mistake, do you need to give yourself a hard time about it? No, what you do is you reclaim your strength, you kind of get up, you brush yourself off, and you move forward again. And now is a good time to begin to take those steps forward, and to take those steps forward in a very grand fashion, but always with the understanding of this is your life, this is who you are, and you need to live in alignment with that from this moment onwards. That's going to do it for your full moon video for the 3rd of February 2015. I'll remind you there is a link to the astrological services page. On this video, you should see it, I think, in the upper, as you're looking at the screen, the upper left-hand corner. And if you have not subscribed to my YouTube page yet, you might consider doing so. Also, if you go directly to my website and hover over the astrological services link, you'll find the free chart calculator if you're wanting to take a look at that. And there is also a link to the free chart calculator below on this video in the description area. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself.